Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamati Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 58, Krishna marries 5 princesses. Text number 15 onwards. So yesterday we discussed how Krishna went to Hastinapur, Indraprasth, to meet Pandavas. And Krishna and Arjuna are now in the forest. They wanted to go for an excursion, Krishna and Arjuna. And Arjuna picked up his bow and 2 inexhaustible quivers and went in the large forest filled with fierce animals. Tatra vidyat chair varyagran shukran mahishan nurun sharabhan gavyan kangan harinan shashalkan. With his arrows, Arjun shot tigers, boars, and buffalo in that forest, along with the rurus, sharabs, gavyas, rhinoceros, black deer, rabbits, and porcupines. Tanenyo kinkararagye medhyan parvani upagate tutrit parita parishranto bibatsyur yamuna maga. A crew of servants carried to young King Yudhishthir the slain animals fit to be offered in sacrifice on some special occasion. Then, feeling thirsty and tired, Arjun went to the bank of Yamuna. As Srila Prabhupada once explained, the Kshatriyas or warriors would hunt in the forest for several purposes: to practice their fighting skills, to control the population of ferocious beasts who were a threat to human beings, and to provide animals for Vedic sacrifices. The killed animals would be given new bodies by the power of the sacrifices. Since priests no longer have that power, the sacrifice would now constitute mere killing and thus is forbidden. In the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the great sage Narad severely chastised King Prachin Barhishat for abusing this principle of authorized hunting. In fact, the king had become like modern sportsmen who cruelly kill animals as a so-called hobby. So Arjun wasn't doing that, and moreover, Krishna is with him. He won't be getting involved in any irreligious act. So Arjun, as Prabhupada explained, he was killing to practice the fighting skills because Kshatriyas have to be ready for the war at any time. And killing the animals, and he basically, as it is said, he sent them to Yudhishthira Maharaj for sacrifice, for use in the sacrifice. So sacrifice means immediately the animal, either he would get a young animal body or a human body, when the body is offered in the sacrifice. It wasn't meant just for killing, just for pleasure purposes, or for eating meat at all. It wasn't the purpose. So Arjun, being with Krishna, who's the source of dharma, whatever he says is dharma. He cannot do any irreligious or dharmic activity. Tatrop sprishya vishadam pitva vari maharatho Krishno dadrishatu kanyam charantim charu darshanam. After the 2 Krishnas, Vedya, so we discussed yesterday that Arjuna is also called Krishna because he is a devotee of Krishna. They drank the river's clear water. The great warriors then saw an attractive young girl walking nearby. Tama sadhyavararoham suddhijam ruchiranaham paprich preshita sakya falguna pramadottamam. Sent by his friend, Arjun approached the exceptional young woman who possessed beautiful hips, fine teeth, and a lovely face, and inquired from her as follows. Krishna wanted Arjun to see the deep devotion of this girl, and thus he urged him to make the initial inquiries. Katvam kasyasi sushroni kuto vakyam chikirshasi anye tvam patim icchantim sarvam kathai shobhane. Arjun said, "Who are you, a fine-waisted lady? Whose daughter are you, and where do you come from? What are you doing here? I think you must be looking for a husband. Please explain everything, O beautiful one." That's a pretty direct approach. You must be looking for a husband. Shri Kalindi Uvacha Aham Devasya Savitur Duhita Patim Ichchati Vishnum Varenyam Varadam Tapah Paramam Asita. Shri Kalindi said, "I am the daughter of the sun god. I desire to get as my husband the most excellent and munificent Lord Vishnu, and to that end I am performing severe penances." As Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out, Srimati Kalindi correctly understood that Lord Vishnu, being the source of all benedictions, is a supreme husband and can thus fulfill all the desires of his wife. So Kalindi said, "I am the daughter of the sun god." So sun god Suryadev has a son and a daughter. Son is actually Yamraj and daughter is Yamuna. So Yamuna's another name is Kalindi. Nanyam patim vrine vira tamrite shri niketanam tushyatam me sa bhagwan mukundo nath sanshraya. I will accept no husband other than him, the abode of the goddess of fortune. May that Mukunda, the Supreme Personality, the shelter of the helpless, be pleased with me. The beautiful Kalindi here reveals some apprehension. She insists that she will not accept any husband except Lord Krishna. And she states that he is a shelter for those who have no other master. Since she will accept no other shelter, Krishna must give her shelter. Also, she says, Tushyatam me sa Bhagavan. May that Supreme Lord be pleased with me. This is her prayer. As Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out, although Kalindi is a young, helpless girl staying in a secluded place, she is not afraid. This staunch faith in and devotion for Lord Krishna is ideal Krishna consciousness, and Srimati Kalindi's desire will soon be fulfilled. Kalinditi samakhyata vasami yamuna jale nirmite bhavane pitra yavadachyut darshanam. I am known as Kalindi, and I live in a mansion my father built for me within the water of the Yamuna. There I'll stay until I meet Lord Achyuta. Since Kalindi was a beloved child of the sun god himself, who would dare disturb her? From this incident, we can appreciate the beautiful spiritual processes executed in previous ages by great souls. Unlike the so-called love in worldly love affairs, beautiful Kalindi's love for Lord Krishna was pure and perfect. Even though Kalindi was a tender young girl, her determination to marry Krishna was so strong that she arranged for her father to build her a house in the Yamuna where she could perform severe austerities until the day her beloved came. Tatha vadad gudakesho vasudevaya swapitam ratham aropya tadvidvan dharma rajam upagamat. Shivdev Goswami continued. Arjun repeated all this to Lord Vasudeva, who was already aware of it. He knew everything. It's not that he didn't know. The Lord then took Kalindi onto his chariot and went back to see King Yudhishthira. Yadeva Krishna Sandishta Parthanam Paramadbhutam Karyamas Nagaram Vichitram Vishwakarmana. Describing a previous incident, Shukdev Goswami said, upon the request of the Pandavas, Lord Krishna had Vishwakarma build them a most beautiful and amazing city, and that was Indraprastha. Bhagwan Statra Nivasan Swanam Priya Chikirshaya Agnaya Khandavam Datum Arjunasya Sarati. The Supreme Lord stayed in that city for some time to please his devotees. On one occasion, Shri Krishna wanted to give the Khandav forest as a gift to Agni, and so the Lord became Arjuna's charioteer. So once also previously, he became the Sarthi of Arjuna. So Agnistushto Dhanuradat, Dhyan Shvetan Ratham Dripa, Arjunaya Ksheo Tuno, Varma Chabhedyamas Istribhi. Being pleased, O king, Lord Agni presented Arjun with a bow, a set of white horses, a chariot, a pair of inexhaustible quivers, and armor that no fighter could pierce with weapons. So Arjun was on the chariot as a passenger, and Krishna was a charioteer. And they went to this kind of forest, and they offered it to Agni. Agni was very hungry. Agni wanted something to eat, and Krishna offered him the whole forest. So very pleased, Agni Dev gave Arjun all these, the bow, the Gandhi bow, the celestial Gandhi bow that Arjun had, came from Agni Dev. Mayascha mochito vahne sabham sakyupaharat yasmin duryodhana syajij jalasthal drishi brahma. When the demon Maya was saved from the fire by his friend Arjun. So Maya was a Danav actually, but he was, as I said yesterday, he was somehow caught in that fire. And Arjun saved him. Details must be given in Mahabharata. So Maya presented him with an assembly hall in which Duryodhan would later mistake water for a solid floor. Srila Jiva Goswami explains a sequence of events that occurred during Lord Krishna's stay with the Pandavas. First, the city was constructed, then the Khandav forest was burnt, then the assembly hall was presented to Arjun, and finally the Lord found his bride Kalindi. So not given in the right sequence, but this is how Srila Jiva Goswami explains. Satena sam anugyata suridhishchanumodita ayayo dwarakam huya syataki pramukher vrataha. Then Lord Krishna, given leave by Arjun and other well-wishing relatives and friends, returned to Dwarka with Satyaki and the rest of his entourage. So he already got 4 wives so far. Atho payeme kalindim supunyat vriksha urjite vitanvan paramanandam swanam paramamangala. The supremely auspicious Lord then married Kalindi on a day when the season, the lunar asterism, and the configuration of the sun and other heavenly bodies were all propitious or favorable. In this way, he brought the greatest pleasure to his devotees. Vindhya and Anuvindhya vantyo duryodhan vashango swayamvare swa bhaginim Krishna saktam nyashedatam. Vindhya and Anuvindhya, who shared the throne of Avanti, were followers of Duryodhan. When the time came for their sister Mitravinda to select her husband in the Swayamvar ceremony, they forbade her to choose Krishna, although she was attracted to him. So like Rukmini also, so there was a problem here, because they were followers of Duryodhan. The feelings of enmity between the Kurus and the Pandavas were so strong that Mitravinda's brothers, out of friendship for Duryodhan, forbade the young maiden to accept Krishna as her husband. Rajadhi Devyastanyam Mitravindam Pitrishvasu Prasaya Hritvan Krishno Rajan Ragyam Prapashyatam. My dear King, Lord Krishna forcibly took away Princess Mitravinda, the daughter of his aunt Rajadhi Devi, before the eyes of the rival kings. So everything is in the relations here. So Mitravinda this is how she was married to Krishna. Because it was her desire to marry Krishna. So Krishna came and married her. And then, so we got how many? 5 and 1, 6. No, 3, 4, 5. 5 so far. So Nagna Jinnam Kaushalya Asid Rajati Dharmika Tasya Satya Bhavat Kanya Devi Nagna Jitin Ripa. O King Nagnajit, the very pious king of Kaushal, had a lovely daughter named Satya or Nagnajiti. Natam Shekur Nripa Vodum Ajitva Sapta Go Vrisha Tikshna Shringan Sudur Darshan Virya Gandha Sahan Khalan. The kings who came as suitors were not allowed to marry her unless they could subdue 7 sharp-horned bulls. These bulls were extremely vicious and uncontrollable, and they could not tolerate even the smell of warriors. So all the warriors who wanted to marry Nagnajiti, so they had to subdue these bulls. And this is the picture in the background, Krishna, with these 7 bulls. Tam Shrutva Vrish Jillabhyam Bhagwan Satatam Patihi Jagam Kaushalya Puram Sanyan Mahta Vritaha. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of the Vaishnavas, heard of the princess who was to be won by the conqueror of the bulls, he went to the capital of Kaushal with a large army. Sakoshal Pati Prita Prati Utthana Sanadibhi Arhane Napi Guruna Pujyan Pratinandita. The king of Kaushal, pleased to see Lord Krishna, worshipped him by rising from his throne and offering him a seat of honor and substantial gifts. Lord Krishna also greeted the king respectfully. Varam Vilokya Vimattam Samagatam Narendra Kanya Chakme Ramapatim Puya Dayame Patira Shisho Analaha Karotu Satya Yadime Dhrito Vrataha. When the king's daughter saw that most agreeable suitor arrived, means Krishna has arrived, she immediately desired to have it. The Lord of Goddess Rama. She prayed, may he become my husband. If I have kept my vows, may the sacred fire bring about the fulfillment of my hopes. Yat pad pankaj raja shirsa vibharti shrir vyaja sagidesha sahlok pala Leela Tanu Swakrit Setu Paripsayaya Kale Adhats Bhagwan Mam Kena Tushet. Goddess Lakshmi, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the rulers of the various planets place the dust of his lotus feet on their heads. And to protect the codes of religion which he has created, he assumes pastime incarnations at various times. How may that Supreme Personality of Godhead become pleased with me? Architam Punarityaha Narayana Jagatpate Atmanandena Purnasya Karvani Kemalpakaha. King Nagnajit first worshipped the Lord properly and then addressed him, O Narayan, Lord of the universe, you are full in your own spiritual pleasure. Therefore, what can this insignificant person do for you? Shri Shukvacha Tamaha Bhagavan Adhrishta Kritasan Parigraha Mega Gambhiraya Vacha Swasmitam Kurunandana. Shukdev Goswami said, O beloved descendant of Kuru, the Supreme Lord was pleased, and after accepting a comfortable seat, he smiled and addressed the king in a voice as deep as the rumbling of a cloud. So this word comes again and again, Mega Gambhirya, like a cloud. Means he's serious when he's talking like that. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Narendra Yancha Kavibhir Vigarhita, Rajanya Bandhor Nij Dharma Vartina, Tathapi Yache Tav Sohrdechaya, Kanyam Tvadiyam Nahi Shulkada Vayam. The Supreme Lord said, O ruler of men, learned authorities condemn begging for a person in the royal order who is executing his religious duties. Even so, desiring your friendship, I ask you for your daughter, though we offer no gifts in exchange. Shri Rajovacha, ko anyaste abhyadiko nath kanyavar ihepsita gunaik dhamno yasyange shrir vasati anapayani. The king said, my lord, who could be a better husband for my daughter than you, the exclusive abode of all transcendental qualities. On your body, the goddess of fortune herself resides, never leaving you for any reason. Kintvasmabhi krita purvam samaya satvata rishapa punsam vire parikshartham kanya vara paripsaya. But to ascertain the proper husband for my daughter, O chief of the Sattvats, we previously set a condition to test the prowess of her suitors. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the king's actual purpose in setting up the test was to obtain Sri Krishna as his son-in-law, since only he could subdue the bulls. Without such a test, it would have been difficult for Nagnajit to refuse the many apparently qualified princes and kings who came to ask for his daughter's hand in marriage. Just like King Drupad had that fish hanging upside down, and he had Arjun in mind when he created that for Draupadi to have the proper husband. Saptaite go vrisha vira durodanta duravagriha etara bhagna subhavo bhinna gatra niripat majaha. These 7 wild bulls are impossible to tame, O hero. They have defeated many princes, breaking their limbs. Yadime nigrihitasyus tvaya yadunandana varo bhavan himato duhiturme shriya pate. If you can subdue them, O descendant of Yadu, you will certainly be the appropriate bridegroom for my daughter, O Lord of Shri. Evam samayam akaranya badva parikaram prabhu atmanam saptadha kritva nyagrihana lilayavatan. Upon hearing these terms, the Lord tightened his clothing, expanded himself into 7 forms, and easily subdued the bulls. So what was so difficult for him? He just expanded in 7 forms. No other king or prince could do that. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Lord Krishna expanded himself into 7 forms, not only to playfully defeat the 7 bulls, but also to show Princess Satya that she would not have to compete with his other queens, since he could enjoy with all of them simultaneously. And this is what he did in Dwarka. Badva tan dam bhi shorir bhagnar darpan hato jasa vyakarshali laya badhan balu daru mayan yatha. Lord Shori tied up the bulls whose pride and strength were now broken and pulled them with ropes, just as a child playfully pulls wooden toy bulls. So what are these bulls in front of Krishna? Nothing. Tata prita sutam raja dado krishnaya vismita tam pratyagrihat bhagwan vidivat sadrishim prabhu. Then King Nagnajit, pleased and astonished, presented his daughter to Lord Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead accepted this suitable bride in the proper Vedic fashion. The word Sadrishim indicates that the lovely princess was fitting bride for the Lord because she possessed wonderful transcendental qualities that complemented his. As Srila Jiva Goswami points out, the word Vismita indicates that King Nagnajit was certainly astonished at the many extraordinary events suddenly taking place in his life. Krishna coming, subduing the bulls, and then marrying Satya or Nagnajiti. Rajapatnyascha duhitu Krishnam ladva priyam patim lebhire paramanandam jatascha paramotsavam. The king's wives felt the greatest ecstasy upon attaining Lord Krishna as a dear husband of the royal princess, and a mood of great festivity arose. Shankha bheriyanakane durgit vadya dvijashisha nara narya pramudita swasa srag alankrita. Conch shells, horns, and drums resounded. along with vocal and instrumental music and the sounds of Brahmins invoking blessings. The joyful men and women adorned themselves with fine clothing and garlands. Dashadhenu Sahasrani Pari Barham Tad Vibhu Yuvati Nam Trisasasram Nishik Griva Suvasasam Nava Naga Sahasrani Naga Chat Gunan Ratan Ratha Chat Gunan Ashwan Ashwa Chat Gunan Naran. As a dowry, powerful King Nagnachit gave 10,000 cows, 3,000 young maid servants wearing golden ornaments on their necks and bedecked in fine clothing, 9,000 elephants, 100 times as many chariots as elephants, means 900,000 chariots, and 100 times as many horses as chariots, and 100 times as many manservants as horses. So he gave that as a dowry, huge dowry. Dampati ratham arupya mahatya senya vritu sne praklina hridyo yapya masa koshala. The king of Koshal, his heart melting with affection, had the bride and groom seated on the chariot, and then he sent them on their way, surrounded by a great army. Shrutva tad rurudhur bhupa nayantam pathikanyakam bhagna virya sudurmarsha yadubhir govrisha pura. When the intolerant kings who had been rival suitors heard what had happened, they tried to stop Lord Krishna on the road as he took his bride home. But just as the bulls had broken the king's strength before, the Yadu warriors broke it now. Always problems with this envious people. Tanya Sita Sharvrata Bandhu Priya Krid Arjuna Gandivi Kalayamasa Singha Kshudra Mirganiva. Arjun, wielder of the Gandiv bow, was always eager to please his friend Krishna, and thus he drove back those opponents who were shooting torrents of arrows at the Lord. He did this just as a lion drives away insignificant animals. Paribarham upagriya dwarka mate satyaya reme yadunam rishibho bhagavan devaki sutaha. Lord Devaki Sutta, the chief of the Yadus, then took the dowry and Satya to Dwarka and continued to live there happily. Just want to see how many. Okay, so we are 2-3 more shlokas. So, Shrutakirte Sutam Bhadram Upayeme Pitrishvasu Kakeyim Bhratri Bhirdatam Krishna Santaradhanadibhi. Bhadra was a princess of the Kakeya kingdom and the daughter of Lord Krishna's paternal aunt, Shrutkirti. The Lord married Bhadra when her brothers, headed by Santardhan, offered her to him. Sutam cha madradhipater Lakshmanam Lakshayayatam Swayamvare Jahareka Sasuparna Sudham Eva. Then the Lord married Lakshmana, the daughter of the king of Madra. Krishna appeared alone at her Swayamvar ceremony and took her away, just as Garuda once stole the demigod's nectar. Anya Shaivam Vida Bharya Krishna Syasam Sahasrasha Bhaumam Hatva Nirodhan Aharitash Charu Darshana. Lord Krishna also acquired thousands of other wives equal to these when he killed Bhaumasura and freed the beautiful maidens the demon was holding captive. Thus ends the purpose to 10th canto, 58th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Krishna Marries 5 Princesses. So we'll stop here, see anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, so you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai